Favourite directors. Favourite directors. So many to choose from. I think I'm going to need some help on this one.
Blue Tubers, assemble!
So hello and welcome back to another video, guys. Now that's right, this has been a video a long time in the making. I've wanted to talk about favourite directors here for a while, and my inspiration for this are two amazing sets which I've got in the last month or so, which is the Alfred Hitchcock set, which of course presents some of his best work, and of course the Bong Joon-ho collection, which houses all of Bong Joon-ho's films, and an Okja, which of course is on Netflix. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Apologies if I'm not. So yeah, and again, I've been making my way through these sets, and because I'd seen a couple Hitchcock movies, I'd only seen Parasite from Bong Joon-ho, but now after going through a number of their movies in these sets, I have just really come to love these directors and appreciate them more. And I think it's always fun to talk about directors, and I think when I look at filmographies, I tend to go by directors, not actors. I don't look at an actor's range and go, oh, here's all the films that Leonardo DiCaprio's been in, and I'll rank them. I'd rather look at all of a director's work, because directors put so much passion into these movies. They're the heart and soul of films, and they carry these films through. And if these films turn out brilliant, they're the ones who should be praised for it more than anyone else. And if the film falls apart, unfortunately, they hold most of the blame, I think, in most cases. Not every case, but most. But, as I say, Bong Joon-ho and Alfred Hitchcock are two directors, for example, which I've just recently discovered. I've recently just been going through their filmography. It was only earlier this year I discovered directors like Kubrick, and lately I've been going through all of David Fincher's movies. So I always think it's good, especially on these types of things, to get other opinions. So I sent out a message to the Blue Tubers. I sent out a message asking them, what are some of your favourite directors? You can give me your favourite, or you can give me three. And I got some really, really fantastic people respond with some really cool clips of them talking about some of their favourite directors. So without a doubt, let's have a look at three really fantastic YouTubers here in this community.
Alright everyone, Geordie Paul here. You may recognise this face from the world-renowned YouTube channel, Magpie Movies. Thanks to Mr. Moviebug himself, James, for asking me to join him on this new collaboration. I hope that everybody's enjoying the video so far. So we'll continue with myself. James has asked, of course, what is the favourite director. I have four. We have Jordan Peele, we have Christopher Nolan, we have Quentin Tarantino, and we have Mr. M. Night Shyamalan. So with regards to those directors, first of all, we'll look at Jordan Peele for Get Out. This is my favourite of his three films. I haven't seen the third. Us is good, but I prefer Get Out. Comedy element, thriller element, horror element, all combined into one with a bit of humour in there as well. Great movie. With regards to Christopher Nolan, Dunkirk. Yeah, there's Tenet. Yeah, there's the Dark Knight trilogy. But with regards to the way he films it, the way he does the storyline, intertwines the the land, air and the sea during the Dunkirk era in 1944. I love it. It's intense from the beginning to the end, and the musical score within it keeps up that intensity. With regards to M. Night Shyamalan, I don't have the Blu-ray copy of Signs, which is my favourite one because it's in the loft. But that is my favourite one. I'm into aliens, all that kind of science fiction, and I love that movie. I can't see anything more than that. Yeah, he's done other good ones, but for me, it's that one. And finally, Mr. Tarantino. Love this box set, amazing box set. My favourite of his is the brilliant Reservoir Dogs. Great dialogue, great action, so gritty. Such an independent film that when it came out, it just shone. It was so good. There are other good movies in this collection. He's done a lot more, all the way up to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But for me, for my personal favourite, is Reservoir Dogs. So there you go. Thanks again, James. Those are my four favourite directors. I hope everybody else I said earlier on enjoys the rest of the videos, and I'll see you on my channel real soon.
Hello everyone, I've been kindly asked by Mr. Moviebug, Mr. James Lack, to talk about my favourite director for a video. So yeah, that's without further ado, let's get to it. So my favourite director of all time is Steven Spielberg. I just love all the different movies he's done. There's a couple in here that I don't really care for. I don't have in my collection at the minute, but I'm going to talk about some of them now very quickly. So first, Indiana Jones. The trilogy is epic. It's probably in my top 10 favourite trilogies of all time. It's very good. All three are very good. My favourite's The Last Crusade. That film is nearly a masterpiece for me. I love that movie. Ready Player One, not as good as as Indiana Jones, but still really enjoyable. I love the direction he took the movie. I love the concept, and I love the cast, and I thought it was really fun. It was really fun film. Next, we have one of his war films, War Horse. Yeah, I just love this movie. Really good. Steven Spielberg nails war films really well. It's just great. I mean, Spielberg, he's just tackled nearly every genre now. It's just amazing how much he's done. He's also done Jurassic Park, which is another one of my favourites. I really love Jurassic Park. I think the score in Jurassic Park is amazing. So Spielberg is really good with these scores as well, because John Williams, I think he's done John Williams has done his films for quite a few now. He did not Jaws, Jurassic Park and Indiana Jones. But yeah, Catch Me If You Can, another great one that Spielberg has done. I really enjoyed that one. Spielberg is just brilliant. Tom Hanks as well. It's a recurring theme in this, you'll see. Saving Private Ryan, really great war film. Spielberg, one of Spielberg's best movies, really good. Spielberg is just such an amazing director. Schindler's List, one of the best movies, really good. Definitely not a fun film, definitely not one I'd put on a lot, but it's very well made, it's very educational, and I think it's a very important time we must all learn about and be reminded about, because this time it's really it's very it's a very heartstringing film, pulls at your heartstrings quite a lot, and it's very upsetting, but very, very good film, very well made film. And then last but not least, certainly not least, Jaws. Wow, his first proper blockbuster. Really enjoyed this. Really good. Spielberg at his finest. Really good Spielberg. This class is a horror, but I don't really see it as a horror. It's not that scary. Back then it was probably scary, but not really. But yeah, that was Spielberg's my favourite director. They were just some films I thought I would go through for this video. But yeah, thank you again, James, for having me. On your channel. It's awesome. But yeah, thank you.
Hi everyone, Film Geek 13 here, or Archie as some people may know me. First up, I just want to say a massive thank you to James Moviebug for having me on his channel. He's asked me to film a little bit for his collaboration he's doing on favourite directors. So he's asked us to come up with our favourite director and talk about why we like them. So if you were asking me this question a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I would have said Stanley Kubrick. His films are there behind me. I've also got a couple of them up there. But after getting into the director I'm going to be talking about today, after getting into his work, he's shot to the top and become my favourite director. And that is David Lynch. I watched Twin Peaks. I think it was the first David Lynch thing I saw, and I thought it was fantastic, and then I instantly went, right, I've got to track down some of his films and I've got to watch them. So after watching Twin Peaks, I think I finished season 1, I got Mulholland Drive, and I thought it was a brilliant masterpiece, fantastic film. I then got Blue Velvet. They're all behind me, by the way. They're all my David Lynch films are in this little director collection bit I have. But yeah, I watched Blue Velvet again, another masterpiece, 5 out of 5 film, brilliant. I then watched the rest of Twin Peaks, finished it, brilliant, best show, it's my favourite show. I then watched Fire Walk With Me, another masterpiece in my personal opinion. I know a lot of people aren't too hot on that film, but I thought it was brilliant. It greatly opened my eyes to the last 7 days of Laura Palmer and to the investigation into the other murder featured in Twin Peaks very briefly. It's not mentioned much, but it is mentioned. And I thought it was just phenomenal the way they did it, and the way they revealed some of the twists in that film. I had my jaw on the floor. After watching Fire Walk with Me, I kind of moved on. Finished Twin Peaks completely. Actually, not completely. I've still got a few episodes left on the Return, which I'm really, really happy to pick up in HMV. I then watched, I believe next was Dune, which I thought is very underrated. I know it's got like 2.8 on Letterboxd, and a lot of people cite it as one of the worst films ever made. Thoroughly disagree. I think it's one of the better kind of 80s sci-fi movies. I thought what Lynch did, especially with barely any creative control, and the fact that it's a very cut down version of what his film originally was, I think is fantastic. But then we get onto the big one. My favourite Lynch film, and really high up on my favourite films of all time. I'm going to actually bring this one out because of how much I liked it. And that is his first film, 1977, I believe. It's only an hour and 29 minutes long, so it's not long at all. And that is David Lynch's Eraserhead. Wow, what a film. If you haven't seen Eraserhead, go do it. Phenomenal movie. I know the Blu-ray is quite expensive to pick up. I managed to get it really cheap. It was like £8.50 or something, which is really good, especially like mint condition. But I know there is a Criterion in the UK. If you haven't seen the film before, I'd recommend checking it out on streaming or buying a DVD or something cheap, as it's a very acquired taste movie. It's not exactly for everyone. I loved it. I'm not sure everyone will though. So that was my little bit about my favourite director. Thank you very much, James, for having me on, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of this collaboration video he's made.
Thank you so much, Magpie Movies, Alex Hampton, and Archie, Film Geek. You got some great picks there. Film Geek, I want to talk about David Lynch because he's a director I've never really come to watch yet. So I'm really excited to dig into his stuff. I've actually seen quite a few of the music videos he did for musicians during the 80s and 90s. So I'm actually quite excited to see some of his other work. I've seen Eraserhead, I think it's called, on the Criterion, up for sale lately, so I've been tempted to pick that up and give it a try. You'll have to let me know in the comments below, Archie, if it's worth getting. Spielberg, I don't think that's the last time we'll be hearing about Spielberg today. Fantastic director, great choice, Alex. And Magpie Movies, some fantastic choice. Jordan Peele as a director always slips my mind because he's only done 2 films. But I've got to say, Get Out and Us are absolutely incredible movies. They're fantastic picks. So yeah, really great directors all the way around there. And I guess I will cap off by talking about one of my favourite directors here. I'm going to cheat. This is my video. I can talk about as many directors as I want. But a director I want to talk about is the one and only George Lucas. Now, I know he's not the best director. I know he's not, he doesn't handle actors incredibly well. And he has a bunch of yes men surrounding him a lot of the time because he becomes so well established as this legendary figure in Hollywood. But at the end of the day, I think you've got to look at what this man's done. He built Lucasfilm up from more or less nothing. He created the most beloved movie franchise ever. And then Lucasfilm has spawned all these other great properties like Indiana Jones. But, at the heart of it, the reason that most people love Lucasfilm is because of Star Wars. This man done so much. He was the creative mind behind it. Not only did he direct the original and change cinema forever, he helped create this incredible universe. He helped create some of the most iconic characters, some of the most iconic lines. And yeah, just look at everything that went into that movie. I think it's absolutely incredible. And then what he done with the prequels, while I can see the flaws in them for sure, it's still, in terms of like expanding on the universe, it done it better than any other Star Wars property has done. You can't tell me that the sequels expanded on the Star Wars universe better than the prequels, because it's just a fact that they didn't. And you've got to respect George Lucas for it. So anyway, let's have a look at some other YouTubers now.
My favourite director. I'm not going to go so mainstream as a lot of people do, the Spielbergs, etc. but this is a name that's known. My favourite director is Luc Besson, and he's right there, of course. Now, Luc Besson has done a lot more than people think. If you look at this in even just a job way of looking at it, he's directed at least 21 titles. He's been a writer or co-writer on at least another 50, and he's been a producer on more than 5 different things. So he's had his fingers in a lot of pies you might not have even known about, but you see his influences around. Now, I really got into Luc Besson with his 1988 film The Big Blue, which had Jean Reno in. I mean, those two are attached to the hip half the stuff they've done together. Now, The Big Blue is an amazing film, very atmospheric, and will always be one of my favourites simply because of how it's a stressy thing to watch, in my opinion, but it's really cool. Then he followed up in 1990 with La Femme Nikita. Really took up that what I call it the Aliens vibe, where he put the woman in charge and had to kick in some ass. And it was done very stylishly. You know, like Lucy, but 20 years earlier in a way. Very cool film. Obviously had the Hollywood treatment since as well with was it Jane Fonda, Bridget Fonda, and things like that. But my absolute stonking favourite that he did was 1994's Leon. Again, worked with Jean Reno and Natalie Portman's first film. I mean, what a fucking film. Gary Oldman played absolute nutter in this. If you have not seen Leon, get your ass on it. I'm sad enough that I used to walk about looking like Leon. Yes, the glasses, the hat, the coat, the lot. Yeah, that's how bad I was back in the day. I never thought he'd really up on that, but then he comes out in 97 with The Fifth Element. Absolute crazy, off the wall. People could have looked at that title and thought this ain't gonna work, and they wouldn't have had the balls to try and film it, but he did. Got the people involved that he needed to. Man, what a film. I love that film to this day. I've just got to pick it up in 4K next. I really want to get it in 4K. He went kind of off skelter, did a lot of other things, but in 2013 he brought us The Family, which was one of a different take on things with him. Robert De Niro, yeah, but the stresses of a bad man's family trying to hide out somewhere, and it was actually quite amusing. It's not a bad film to watch, quite tense in places, but I highly recommend that one too. But then obviously the next year he made the amazing Lucy. Oh, what a film, brilliantly done. Very good premise, very gritty at the start as well, where she discovers herself. It's a really cool film to watch. I think I own that 4K, I own that as a steelbook, and I own that normal as well. We all know me, don't we? One that did surprise me, visually amazing, bit lackluster on the storyline, was Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets. I think might have overstretched itself slightly. Good visuals. Something I have watched multiple times. I do own it 4K and normal as well. I used to have it as a steelbook and 3D, but I changed that over. But if you can get it in 3D, watch it in 3D. Definitely. Now, even as a producer, the things you won't know who's attached to. Nail by Mouth, which is an old English film. Very brutally made. Had Ray Winston basically beating the living fuck out of his wife. Kathy Burke was amazing in that film. Very brutal, but did you know that he was the producer on that? Bet you didn't. Kiss of the Dragons, another one he produced, as well as the Transporter films and the District 13 and Ultimate films as well. So you can see where his style got into those type of films as well. And yes, he was even involved in Taken. Did you know that? Now, I can't wait to see what he does next. There are some gems out there. Get yourself on Wikipedia and take a look at his lists, and trust me, hunt down some of his films and you will not be disappointed. And there is my favourite director. Now back to the studio. Take care now.
How's it going? My name is James from Styled Cinema. Thank you to Mr. Moviebug for allowing me to be part of this collaboration. He's asked me to list off a couple of my favourite directors, so I thought I'd start off with none other than Mr. Edgar Wright himself. An absolutely fantastic director with such a unique and interesting style. and the way he edits his movies that kind of fit in with the comedy, I absolutely love. He's so consistent as a director. He's only made a few films, but all of them have been top tier in my opinion. With Baby Driver being one of my favourites, as well as The World's End. It's my favourite in the Cornetto trilogy. Probably the most underlooked out of the three, but it's my personal favourite. And also my second favourite director is Mr. Shane Black. He's only made a few movies, two of which I absolutely love, being The Nice Guys, which is one of my all-time favourite movies, and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which is fantastic as well. He also made Iron Man 3, which I know is a bit controversial, but I personally really enjoy it. The other two movies he's done, maybe not so good. One of them being The Predator. Haven't seen it, but haven't heard great things. But yeah, two of my favourite films, so I had to throw him in there as well. Thanks, James.
Hello everyone on Movie Bug's channel. James, thank you very much for having me on the channel again. James, you've asked us who our top 3 favourite directors are. Now, it's changed a bit since I did my top 5 favourite directors. Top 2 stayed the same. Third one's changed a lot. My top 3 favourite directors are Mr. Christopher Nolan, Guy Ritchie, and Martin Scorsese. Martin Scorsese created 2 of my favourite movies of all time, in The Wolf of Wall Street and Goodfellas. Christopher Nolan created my favourite movie of all time, The Dark Knight. And, of course, Guy Ritchie is probably one of the best British directors of all time. He's made some absolute British classics. Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, not Revolver, not Aladdin either. The Gentleman, one of my other favourite movies of all time. He's created so many good British culture movies that will stand the test of time in British culture. So yeah, those are my top 3 favourite directors. What's everyone else's? Thank you for having me be a part of this video, mate. I really do appreciate it. Take care.
Again, some fantastic picks there from Blu-ray Bullet Brit, Styled Cinema, and Mr. Jake Blower. Thank you guys again for taking part. Some fantastic choices there. Luc Besson is a director which I have yet to really get into too much, but I've seen a few of his films. You know, Leon is probably his most famous, I think. Maybe The Fifth Element, but I haven't seen The Fifth Element yet. I have seen Leon, and I do really like that movie. I've seen a couple of the lesser-known ones, like Valerian, surprisingly. So, yeah. Edgar Wright, though. Wow, what a pick. I mean, I always sort of tend to forget about him, I guess because he hasn't made a film in a couple of years now. But that man's catalogue is incredible. The Cornetto trilogy is fantastic. I still think Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is one of my favourite movies ever. Alongside Shaun Dead and Hot Fuzz, of course, love those two. And, you know, Baby Driver, great movie. And yeah, Jake, you know, also some really great picks there. Of course, we all absolutely love, because I wanna hold it up here because I was so happy with this film, Guy Ritchie. He had a massive return to form a couple of years ago with The Gentleman, so really wanted to hold that up and show that, because Guy Ritchie is a fantastic choice, and I think that man will go down in history as one of the best. And on that note, I'll talk about another director myself, and a director I really wanted to speak about, and I got a feeling he's going to come up again soon. This is going to be the one and only Mr. Martin Scorsese. Martin Scorsese has done so much. Recently, I've dived into some of his earlier films. I watched for the first time ever, here on Criterion, The Last Temptation of Christ, which is a movie which I didn't think I'd like, because I'm not really a religious person, and I know it's got a lot of controversy. But I knew about this film because I love the soundtrack by Peter Gabriel, so I went into this very excited, very cautious, because the runtime was also scaring me, but I really enjoyed this. Willem Dafoe was great, and Martin Scorsese has such a great style to him, such a great flair. And it's interesting because the man is actually a lot more diverse than people think. A lot of people put him down as a gangster movie director, and he makes a lot of long films, which he does, but there is also some interesting other movies in this man's catalogue, like Hugo, which is one I want to talk about. Really great, fun little movie. One that doesn't get talked about enough. A very underrated Scorsese movie. Shutter Island's a really interesting one for him. The plot twist in that, of course, like most people, I think, on first watch, blew my mind. And, you know, there's just some classics there. Goodfellas, Taxi Driver. And, of course, I have to talk about the one and only The Wolf of Wall Street, which I think is probably his most popular film. I don't know if I'd say it's his best, but it's definitely his most rewatchable, in my opinion. And yeah, he's just a really, really fantastic director. And his last movie, The Irishman, was also a really good time. And I've recently just got, actually, funny enough, on the Criterion range, I got the Scorsese shorts. So I'm really looking forward to diving into these and seeing what his short films were like from the 70s. But yeah, let's have a look at some more Blue Tubers, shall we?
So hey everyone, Film Flick here. I just want to say thank you to James for asking me to basically collaborate in this video with him. So thank you, James, for that. And he's asked us to talk about our favourite director or directors, and I thought I'd do 3 or 4 directors. So the first one I'm going to mention is Christopher Nolan. He makes some of the most vivid and most wild films, such as Interstellar, James's favourite Tenet, sorry James, and a bunch of others, the Dark Knight trilogy, to just name a few. His films are really special, and they are really, really well done. The way he shoots them in like 35mm, shoots them in IMAX, they're really big, bombastic sets. I love Nolan. Then another one is the wonderful Sean Baker, who made the Florida Project. He made a movie using an iPhone called Tangerine before Florida Project. But Florida Project was what has made him one of my favourite directors because of the way, his style and the way he makes it. Then you got Denis Villeneuve, who has made some of the most beautiful films and most complex movies, such as Enemy, which is a doppelganger story. Then Blade Runner 2049, which is the most beautiful looking movie I've seen in a long time. And various other things like Prisoners, which is a child abduction story done to great effect. But my favourite director is none other than Damien Chazelle, who has made my favourite movie of all time, Whiplash, another favourite of mine, La La Land, and First Man. First Man is a slight departure from those ones, but I have to say, he has got a perfect track record right now. He's like A24, his track record's perfect. So, Damien Chazelle is my favourite director. Thank you again, James, for letting me come on this video, and I will see you guys later. Don't forget to subscribe to James. His channel's amazing.
The filmmaker here. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, James, or Moviebug, for inviting me on to be a part of this collaboration. I'm really looking forward to it. And James has asked us our favourite director. Now, if you know me, if you follow my channel, you will know this answer. It is Stanley Kubrick. He's my favourite director of all time, and I would even maybe say he's the best. I mean, I've not seen every film from every film director of all time. That would be near impossible. But from what I've seen thus far in watching films, he is the best. Well, you know, because he's just practically a genius. The way he, you know, masterfully is able to balance an art and entertainment, because you know his films aren't these kind. It isn't like watching paint dry. And most art films, by the way, are not like watching paint dry, as most people would think. But still, you know, he is able to do that. He's able to very interestingly communicate that, and the way he crafts his films, you know, they stick with you. The messages stick with you. You know, what does 2001 mean? It sticks with you, you know, it has a very long lifespan. It isn't like you watch one of his films and then it's out of your brain and you're on to the next thing. No, it sticks with you, it haunts you, and he's just an incredible director, so meticulous, and he's someone I look up to dearly. He is literally the best, but I cannot just say Kubrick. I cannot do a disservice to other directors who I think are just phenomenal as well. Martin Scorsese, a guy who has never made a bad film. Unfortunately, Kubrick has his first film is actually really bad. Sorry, Kubrick, but you made a bad film. Come on, I'm going to call you out on that. Scorsese hasn't made a bad film whatsoever, and I've seen literally every film he's ever made. So, you know, that's my opinion though. But I'm glad I can say that. And you know, he's so versatile, Scorsese, you know, so many different styles. Goes from Age of Innocence to something like, well, you know, he did Mean Streets, then years later he did something like Age of Innocence. He's just an incredible director. And then, of course, Federico Fellini. His career, his style is so fascinating to see evolve through the years. Definitely, well, at the moment, the greatest Italian director who lived for me. Sorry, Sergio Leone. But, you know, Sergio Leone didn't make many films, unfortunately. But still, you know, and I haven't seen every film from every great film, you know, Italian film director like Rossellini or something like that. But I doubt that Rossellini will be able to top Fellini. Okay, and Fincher. I look up to Fincher. I mean, I'm the filmmaker, you know, so I watch these directors to see them, and you know, Fincher's a big one. And Tarantino. How can I not mention Tarantino? And Ari Aster, a new director who's out there, and Paul Thomas Anderson as well. Really phenomenal stuff. These guys are phenomenal directors. Some of them auteurs, even, you know, just a signature. You can really tell it's one of their films, and they're behind every single angle of it, from the screenwriting to the editing to, you know, the production design to everything. They're kind of, their voice is there, their signature is on the film. So yeah, hopefully I'm just looking, I'm 3.5 minutes through. Hopefully I'll be able to cut some of this down, because I know James said 2 to 3 minutes. Thank you so much. And yeah,
hi James, thank you so much for inviting me on your channel to talk a little bit about my favourite director of all time. I can't wait to see everybody else's clips of who their favourite directors are, but for me personally, there can only be one director that I can choose, and that is of course Steven Spielberg. Whatever movie Steven Spielberg is involved in, you know it's going to be a very good movie to watch. I think he's directed around about 61 movies, which is absolutely phenomenal. He also directed the first movie that actually gave me nightmares way back when I was younger. I used to wake up in the night, crying my eyes out. My mum and dad used to have to come in and try and comfort me. And that movie was, of course, Jaws. That sound... it used to get to me so much when I was younger. When I went to the cinema for the very first time back in 1982, that also was a Steven Spielberg film, E.T. So I have to pick Steven Spielberg. So many good movies he has been involved in. You've got Saving Private Ryan, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. You also have Indiana Jones. We've also got the Goonies as well. There's just so many out there and so many to choose from. Like I say, I think I would actually find it very difficult to choose a movie directed by Steven Spielberg that I didn't actually like. Of course, you got Jurassic Park as well. I just don't think there is a movie which I can say I don't actually like that he's directed, because the guy is just brilliant at directing. You know you're going to get a very good movie when he directs it. I've just got to give a special mention to another director, Mr. George Lucas. I cannot not mention him. He created the Star Wars universe, and without him, I'd be lost, because I just love Star Wars and that whole Star Wars franchise. So I've got to give a special mention to George Lucas, but my all-time favourite director is Steven Spielberg. James, thank you so much for inviting me on your channel. I do hope that's okay. Take care, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Josh, Film Flick, and the filmmaker Lucas, and of course Carl from Carlinio9. All great YouTubers there again. And again, great picks all round. You know, Spielberg, hey, he had to come up. He is probably the most famous director that's ever lived, and the most praised and probably the most well-loved. I think everyone, from critics to the general audience, just can appreciate that man. Some of the work he's done is incredible, and I completely agree with everything you said, Carl. Like, that man is just a genius. He's got so many classics under his belt, and so many of his films are in my top 20, I'd say. From classics like Jaws to Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, E.T. You just listing classic after classic there. Stanley Kubrick, I briefly mentioned him earlier. You know, he has made one of the best movies of all time, in my opinion, 2001: A Space Odyssey. It is an absolute classic. So far ahead of its time. I completely agree with everything you were saying as well, Lucas. I think the man was just so ahead of his time. And he's got some incredible films. And even like the lesser, I wouldn't even say they're lesser known, but the ones that people don't talk about as much, like Barry Lyndon. I got to say, incredible. Really, really good movie. So, yeah. And then, Josh, I pulled it out here to hold up, of course. Damien Chazelle movie, I've got to agree with you. Whiplash is one of the best movies ever made. I think this is such a great film. and he is an absolutely incredible director, one which I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next. So a director I wanted to talk about as well is one which I think people can expect, because I love this guy and I've expressed my love for him many times now, and that is Taika Waititi. Of course, Taika blew up on the scenes back in 2017 when he released the very famous, very well loved and very well received Marvel movie Thor Ragnarok, which is still probably in my top 5 Marvel films. But outside of that, he has an incredible catalogue of movies before, and of course now we've got Jojo Rabbit since then, which was really great movie. But before, he has some incredible films. Two which I really love from him is What We Do in the Shadows, which is one of my favourite mockumentaries ever now. If you haven't seen What We Do in the Shadows, please guys go see it. The Blu-ray is pretty cheap. You can get it for like £5 to £10, I think. It's a really fantastic movie. And one which I'm really hoping gets released on Blu-ray, and I think Criterion, you could do a great job on this movie. It would fit in so well with your range. And that is a movie simply called Boy, which was such a fantastic film. And his first movie, Eagle vs. Shark, is pretty good, and Hunt for the Wilder People is also a really good time. Taika has got an absolutely incredible reputation at the minute, and so far, he's still pretty new, considering, you know, he's only had 5-6 films now, but so far, he's made such a great impact. And, you know, he's also quite funny when he appears in his movies as well. So, Taika, we love you.
Hello everybody on YouTube land, my name is Jamie Powell, and Movie Bug, also known as James, got in touch with me and asked me to do a short video about my all-time favourite film director. Well, it is cliche to say this name, but I have to because it is my favourite, and that is Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg has made some of my all-time favourite movies. He started off with a TV movie called Jewel that was so successful it made its way to the cinemas back in the day. And it's one of my favourites. It's got a re-release coming out soon on Blu-ray, and I have pre-ordered that. It is a fantastic thriller from start to finish. But the director has done so many well-known films: Jurassic Park, E.T., Schindler's List, Jaws. I mean, I love even the smaller films like Catch Me If You Can, or even Bridge of Spies is a decent movie. And also The Terminal with Tom Hanks, one of my all-time favourite movies. I mean, Saving Private Ryan, and the list just goes on and on and on for Steven Spielberg. He has recently making a West Side Story remake, which is a musical, and I will be going to see that. Not particularly a fan of musicals so much, but I will go and see it to support the director's work. He also did the BFG, which wasn't that great, but it was okay. In fact, he's not really done a lot of really good films of recent, but I do like films like Hook, which is not very well received. I really do enjoy that. There are just so many films in this man's career, but I have to say he is my favourite because overall he is the most consistent director and still working today. So Steven Spielberg is my choice. Anyway, thanks for having me on the video, James. Movie Bug, that is. I'll see you again soon with some more videos, and I do have a YouTube channel if you'd like to check it out. And until then, see you later, guys.
Hey guys, Alex here from Alex's Movie Corner, and I just want to say thank you so much, James, for asking me to be a part of this collaboration. Collaborations are always so much fun, and today we are talking about one of my favorite topics, and that is my favorite directors. Now, my third pick for this is Quentin Tarantino. I love a lot of Tarantino's films, my favorite being Pulp Fiction, followed by Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Django Unchained. Those, to me, are his 3 best films. Now, Quentin Tarantino, it's fair to say he stays in his wheelhouse. He knows what his wheelhouse is, and he stays very much in it. He doesn't really branch out to different genres or anything like that. But for what he does, he works really well. You're talking about something like Inglourious Bastards as well, which is such a fun kind of alternate take on World War II. So much fun. Of course, his first film, Reservoir Dogs, that's also a really good time. The only Tarantino film that I don't like is Death Proof, but like, you know, the film above Death Proof for me is like an 8 out of 10. Death Proof's like a 4 out of 10, but he's got so many great films. My number 2 pick is the legend himself, Martin Scorsese. Now, I actually think that, you know, when most people say their favorite Scorsese film, it's probably something like Goodfellas or Raging Bull or, you know, classics like that. Mine is actually The Wolf of Wall Street, one of his most recent films. I just find it so rewatchable. I love the characters. I love the story. It's just a really fantastic film. But of course, Goodfellas is fantastic. I also love Shutter Island. I really like Hugo as well, The Irishman that came out recently. And then, of course, you go back to some of his classics like Taxi Driver, The Last Temptation of Christ. I'm not huge on that film, to be honest, but I know a lot of people are. But nevertheless, also something like After Hours, I think, is a really, really underrated Scorsese film. He's a really, really fantastic director. But my number one director of all time is the legend himself, Mr. Steven Spielberg. Now, Steven Spielberg has got so many great films, whether you're looking at something like Jurassic Park or Jaws or Schindler's List or Raiders of the Lost Ark or The Last Crusade or Temple of Doom or the Indiana Jones films, really. Maybe not the fourth one. But yeah, he's got so many iconic classic films. But the thing that puts Spielberg above someone like Tarantino or Scorsese is the fact that he tells stories and films in different genres, whether it's war, action, adventure, romance, Ready Player One as well, and The Post and Bridge of Spies. I've got to mention his recent ones. I love those films. He can just tell so many different stories in so many different genres, and 9 times out of 10, they will work out well. He doesn't always, he hasn't always hit it out of the park. Some of his early films weren't the best, but, kind of in the mid-70s when Jaws came out, he's really hit his stride. And I know some people might say that he's lost it recently. I really don't think he has. I love Steven Spielberg. He's my favorite director of all time, and it's hard to imagine anyone else ever overtaking him. But that's going to do it for this little segment, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.
What is up, everyone? Movie Worm here, and I'd just like to say a big thank you to James, the Movie Bug, for letting me be part of this video. Now, when James asked me who my favourite director was, the answer was pretty simple for me. I mean, he's always been my favourite director and still is to this day, because I look forward to every one of his films and I've never really been disappointed with any of them. And that is Quentin Tarantino. Yes, when I started my love for Quentin was when I first watched Pulp Fiction when I was about 13 or 14 years old, and I'd never seen the movie before. I'd seen this poster around all the time, but I'd never actually sat there and watched it. I knew it was highly regarded, and when I watched it, oh my god, I instantly played it again. It was one of the very few times I've watched the same movie in one day, back to back, because I just couldn't believe how good it was. I mean, at the end of the film, where they're in the restaurant, and you know what happened at the very start, and these gangsters are in there, and it's all about to just come together. I'm like, oh my word, I just couldn't believe how good it was. I didn't see that Gimp scene coming in a million years. But he's made some other great films as well, and that led me on to Reservoir Dogs, Jackie Brown, Kill Bill, of course, Inglourious Basterds. I mean, what a movie that is. The fact that he can just make dialogue be absolutely so entertaining and so exciting. Like, for example, the first scene of that movie, the first 10 minutes with the Jews are hidden down below, that is so tense, and he just makes great characters out of all the fine cast that he gets together. Django Unchained is another one, just absolutely masterpiece in my opinion. Even there's films that aren't highly regarded, like Death Proof. I really like that film, but I'd actually put it somewhere in the middle of his ranking if I was to rank Quentin Tarantino. My least favourite, The Hateful Eight, is still a great movie. Some of his movies are better than some directors, so his worst movie might be better than some directors' best. That's how good he is. So he's just a brilliant filmmaker. I hope he doesn't stop making them, because I just get a lot of joy out of Quentin's movies. Own them all on Blu-ray, of course. He's just a master. And when you see him in interviews and stuff, he's actually quite funny. So my favourite director, James, has to be Quentin Tarantino. I mean, there's a few who could have got in there, like Fincher, David Lynch, Martin Scorsese, but I have to put Quentin in there. Just love all his movies. So thank you very much, James. Take it easy.
Thank you, Jamie Powell, Mr. Alex Pitt, and Jordan Movie Worm. Some of my favourite people on YouTube, all in this video. I feel so honoured that you guys want to do this. But thank you guys so much for sending in those videos. Jamie and Alex both mentioned Spielberg again. He is like the OG. He's just the top guy, really, and he's so classics, like you guys were saying, just classics. So I really can't, I don't see how anyone could argue that. The man is just so fantastic what he's doing. But one which, of course, I haven't really mentioned here, I got to agree with movie one. Quentin Tarantino, what a fantastic director, and I'm really pleased you mentioned, like, the Inglourious Basterds. That opening scene is insane. It's probably top 3 opening scenes ever for me, Inglourious Basterds. But yeah, I agree with what you were saying about Pulp Fiction as well. You just never know what's coming, and there's some weird, wacky things, like you mentioned the Gimp. It's bizarre. For me, Quentin's only really made one bad movie, and I'm not a big fan on Death Proof, I'll admit, but other than that, his catalogue is fantastic. Even with his last release, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, while I didn't love it as much as some of his other work, it's still a fantastic movie, and you gotta love Quentin Tarantino. So I got a couple other directors I want to briefly touch on, but before I go there, and that is it for all the clips, guys. I just want to say a huge thank you to all the people who took part in this video. There will be links in the description to all of their channels, so please, guys, if you aren't subscribed to any of these people, go do it. They're absolutely fantastic, and I can't thank them enough for sending in clips. It takes time, and it takes effort and stuff to make these videos, even if they're only 2-minute clips sent over. So I appreciate them doing that for me in this video, because hey, it's made this video so much cooler, so much more epic. So guys, thank you so much for taking part. Really, really do appreciate it. You're all absolutely wonderful people. But anyway, another director that I really want to talk about here, of course, and I don't really think I have a personal favourite director, which I know is really, really like salty for me to say almost, because these guys have spoken about theirs. But this guy has sort of stuck with me for a while now, and I have to mention him as like my sort of top spot. Because while I think if I was to say a favourite, it probably would be Spielberg, because there's so many classics there, and Scorsese, because he's just got some absolutely incredible cinematic moments, and same with Tarantino. They're just incredible directors. Taika's my favourite up-and-coming one. And I'm really coming to love Bong Joon-ho. I've watched 3 of his movies now, and so far they've all been incredible. Alfred Hitchcock as well. Going through his catalogue in a minute, I'm really coming to appreciate him. Stanley Kubrick, the man is just a legend. He's got some incredible pieces. I know Ridley Scott as well. While there's some duds in there, there's some absolutely incredible films. James Cameron as well. I feel like he's unfortunately got a bit wasted lately, just making Avatar sequels. But let's not forget that man was the king of sequels with T2 and Aliens. But a director that I have to mention, because every time one of his films gets re-released on the Criterion, I'm buying it. And every time I watch his film, I'm there till the very end. And his style captivates me so well. And it speaks very well to my personality. And that is Mr. Wes Anderson. Mr. Wes Anderson, I've introduced a few people to him now, like my good friend Luke, who appears on the channel. I've really got him into Wes Anderson. And every time I release one of his films at the Criterion range, I'm always there first day buying it. His catalogue is absolutely incredible. My personal favourite is The Grand Budapest Hotel. That film speaks levels and volumes to me in terms of the style, the colour palette. The script to it is incredible. I love the awkward style of acting. The story is brilliant. And it's in my top 20 films ever. I absolutely love it. His stop motion movies are fantastic as well. Fantastic Mr. Fox, incredible. Isle of Dogs, really good as well. And then you've just got things like Moonrise Kingdom and The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, which are 2 of my other personal favourites. The Royal Tenenbaums and The Darjeeling Limited are also great. And he's just got a fantastic little catalogue of movies building up. And I'm really excited to see The French Dispatch later this year. But anyway, there we go. There are some of the best directors ever. I know that there are going to be some that didn't get brought up at all in this video, which people in the comments are going to be like, oh, where's Tchaikovsky? Where's blah, blah, blah? Where's blah, blah? And this is just my opinion. This is these guys' opinions. And I think we've all done a great job. We've listed some incredible directors here. So anyway, guys, I hope that for those of you who maybe didn't know some of these directors, there's some good ones for you to look into now. And hey, I'm sure in the comments there'll be some more suggestions for us all. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this as always. I'm so grateful to the people who come on and make videos. Thank you all again so much. Don't forget to hit that like button, leave a comment and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you next time.